So let us now explore how academia and the nonprofit sector can work together on research for broad-based sustainable development. Our speaker is connected with RTI International, a nonprofit research and technical services company headquartered at the Research Triangle Park in North Carolina. He is currently the chief of party of STRIDE, that's Science, Technology, Research, and Innovation for Development, a program of the USAID. STRIDE is currently working with the Philippine government, higher education institutions, and industry stakeholders to enable innovation-driven economic growth. Please extend a warm welcome to Dr. Richard Abendan.
Thanks, Toby. It's great to be introduced by my undergrad chemistry professor. So it's a great experience. So good morning, everybody. And I'd like to if you know about STRIDE already, we've been around for the last 5 years. We've been known to give out grants, and the project's worth $32 million at the start. That's the good news. The bad news is that we are actually, the good news is that we've been extended another 3 years. However, we don't have enough, not as much money. We're not giving away grants anymore. So let me talk about better news about what STRIDE doing for the next 3 years as we go to this extension phase, and I think how we can work together with all the stakeholders here with PAASE on this, this ecosystem we've always been talking about for the last 2 days. This is my first time to show this picture. 15 odd years ago, that's me with a gray shirt. I was a grad student in Georgetown, chemistry. And you can tell, my first message here with this slide is that you know you're getting old when you're still doing presentations with bond papers. Now you're stacking it together. So for the younger scientists here, you're in a lucky age. It's really a pain to get these presentations. But what I wanted to show this picture here is that as a scientist, doing your studies in the US, PAASE was really almost like a family to me. I could remember doing Christmas lunches with Dr. Ed Padlan's house in Maryland. It's really, I think, something that's very important to me. I'm really happy to be presenting here, and also really happy to be a member of PAASE. Also, I think I got this job because of PAASE, because Lisa Verata introduced me to Manny Uy, who got me the job in STRIDE. So thank you, PAASE. All right, let's go to work. The STRIDE program. Our main mission right now is to strengthen Philippine science, technology, research innovation capacity in the Philippines. Traditionally, we've been looking at higher education institutions, but with the extension phase, we're working with 4 sort of pillars. Improve HCI capacity, we're still a higher ed project of USAID. We're looking at government capacity, looking at how to work with government more, because government has invested a lot into this ecosystem, right? So you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We just want to sort of give targeted technical assistance on what efforts government and universities are doing. We're still talking about linkages. We heard about industry-academic partnerships. That's still a big part of STRIDE. And finally, and I think not a very important part of STRIDE, is looking at improved policy and regulatory environments in R&D. So let me just talk to you about the new thrust of STRIDE. It's really about providing technical assistance to stakeholders who want to pursue innovation. The key stakeholders in this innovation ecosystem, how can we assist you to sort of achieve what you want to do easier? Like, what are the things you need to get there? And so there's an example here where we actually ran a FGD working with regional directors of DTI and DOST. We brought in Sarah Lawrence from North Carolina, who does all these innovation studies in terms of regions. How can you look at the biomedical sector in Maryland? How do they grow that up? RTI has been part of those efforts in a regional level in the US and the world. And we're going to bring that here as part of the STRIDE program, working with innovation programs of DTI and DOST. We have and are still going to be running sort of these convergence activities. We can run events between, there's a DTI design conference, but we actually try to invite the scientists to go to this event, right? DTI, DOST working together on design thinking, right? These are events we funded under STRIDE, and if you have other ideas here in PAASE, let's do that. We have money to burn at least for some activities like that. We've actually funded many things around industry-academic partnerships. So there's some of our visions, where industries, academe, government don't have barriers to collaboration. So we've done things like technology transfer office program development, working with universities to have industry-driven curriculum. That's all being done. Again, that's Pat Cruz from MSU IIT. and this is their Fab Lab. Again, many of the things I'm telling to you right now are all government-funded projects. This is not Stride money, okay? I'm not claiming credit for many of this, but we're trying to sort of bring in the technical assistance for that. There's a project that I think Gev talked about this yesterday. That's the engineer Arnold from MSU IIT, a balik scientist. We also funded a project with him looking at creating different sources of the polyols in foam making. And we actually brought him to the US, University of St. Louis, to look at that work. But again, it's really how do we bring back the scientists here? And I think that's, a big thrust for PAASE. For me, it's a personal mission also. I mean, I wish I would have come back to the Philippines sooner. So let's work together how we can do that. It's also about how do we make the Filipino companies, or also the global companies, look at doing R&D here. We were in Malacanang yesterday, and there's something we were talking about. How do we incentivize companies to do R&D here? Not just the Filipino companies, but the big ones, right? That's something that's worked together on. How can we create that enabling environment for that? So we're trying to come up with like a vision for Stride, what do you want to achieve, right? And we just want to see a future where innovators, stakeholders work together to create, and adopt Filipino solutions to create access and opportunities for all. Again, I'm preaching to the choir here. We're talking about innovation for development. I don't have to press this onwards. So how did we get here with a Stride extension? This is an example of government efforts towards innovation. That's SecMon, USEC Gevs there, USEC Brand of DOST, ASEC Feet of DTI, and Ched's there. They went to Silicon Valley, plug and play with Jojo Flores, from Filipino, a leading incubator in the Philippines. They went to Washington, D.C. They talked to NSF, and they understood, what are the grant mechanism programs in the U.S., the small business loan program. They're learning these things, right? So the ecosystem's there, the knowledge is there, the investment is there. They spent 2 weeks of their busy schedule to see all these things. So the Stride program organized this tour. That's in the USAID headquarters in D.C. And at the current time point, I think President Joel showed this slide. The IIC event, this was like a month ago, just this month, where the government agencies are now converging towards innovation. So one of the things we work with the Stride program is this roadmap called the Philippine Inclusive Philippine Innovation Entrepreneurship Roadmap, or IFER. And just one of the suggestions, or many of the suggestions of the roadmap, talk about policy, creating MSC partnerships, and we can go to that for the whole day if you want. But I just want to show you this one slide. I just stole this from DTI, by the way. They talk about this ecosystem, and we've been talking about this today. There's all these players, and ultimately it's about the people, I think. I mean, we already know what we need. I think it's the execution. And maybe in Stride, if you tell us, what do we need to get this going? We already know what to do. How do we do it? I think it's the hard part. And so let's talk about this discussion. Sort of to frame what we can do. It's sort of my thesis point. I have 3 minutes. I'll try to do it in 5. I know we have to sort of discuss proposals. The blue points are I think what we can think of what PAASE can work together with Stride on. We're looking at RIICs, Regional Inclusive Innovation Centers. That's something I think what Giselle was talking about during the meeting. We work with 4 pilot cities, Legazpi, Cebu, Davao, Cagayan de Oro, looking at what sector there could use an injection of focused innovation programs from government and academe to sort of take it to the next level. For example, Legazpi. You're thinking maybe pili nut, right? And so let's see, what's really missing? Why are we not really taking off in the world market with pili nuts, right? That's one example that our DTI, DOSC is talking to us right now in the higher eds. But maybe we can contextualize the interventions of many of our PAASE members on the context of these regional centers. Also a mentorship program, like how can we create more mentors to help our researchers here? Not just on a high level, we don't need the CEOs to come here. Right? Maybe the engineers, right? Or your grad students or postdocs from the US. It might be just simple advice. I just want to also talk about something we've done with DOST. We always talk about market-driven R&D. This patterned after the NSF I-Core program. It's the Philippine Innovation Entrepreneurship Program. So DOST is funding this. DLSU is running it. And Stride program is actually helping with this program. But it's basically forming teams of the researcher, with entrepreneurial lead, with a mentor and a tech transfer officer to look at rapid customer discovery of their research. 4 weeks, we forced them to do 50 interviews, right? And what they learn is pretty amazing because you would think they would have learned that early on, but this forced them to do it, right? And so this Acticon team, for example, I think is a good example. They actually found partners to this customer discovery process. They have, I think, secured a 30 million pesos worth of field trial support. No? So again, just talking to your customers, something we're supporting with DOST and DTI. I'm an Atenean, but I have to show a DLSU slide. That's another project that's going on with LaSalle. No? So it doesn't pain me to work with LaSalle because they've been great. But like, how can we have PAASE members drive this kind of mechanisms? No? How can we create more commercialization, right? And I think that's one of the outputs DOST is looking at. Mentors, one. What are other ways? Let's talk about it. Industry, I know maybe it's a theme for next year, no? How can we help translate the technologies that we're doing now here into something that industry understands, right? If we pitch to JAZA, what do we have to say, right? They're talking about ROI, investments. The previous speaker before me talked about, as a VC. That's something you want to bring in here. How can we do more of that? So that our researchers here, when you start thinking about your research, early on pa lang, TRL 1, 2, and 3, you're already thinking about this. Policies, very important. How can we advocate innovation-focused policy reforms? How can you be part of the solution? We heard yesterday about deloading, incentives for research, extension. That's all there. There's a picture of VP Sinch there. That's actually 2 weeks ago, right, Al? We're talking about the procurement problem that everybody's so energized to talk about, no? There's policy problems here, but also an implementation question, right? And so maybe there are things we don't need to solve with policy. Right? So let's talk about that. Stride can help in this effort. We have been fighting for this for the last 5 years. By the project end in 3 years, hopefully Al will be done with this. Okay, that's my personal mission. Good luck to me, yes. Can we learn from the Abu Dhabi example, right? I know Dr. Puruganan talked about it, I love it when chemists have solutions to policy problems, right? So let's do it. I want to learn. Huh? Maybe it doesn't have to be a new policy. Academe, right? We're working with PASOK, that's Dr. Tirso was here yesterday. How can we capacitate HEIs to have stronger management systems in research? How do we have them create more proposals and all that? And how do you create better overhead structures so that when you get grants, you can fund the RAs, you can fund the staff to support the researchers so they can incentivize and do more research. We have a START program that's going to come up. I think it will touch on to the many problems you identified today and yesterday. It's basically teaching researchers, the young researchers particularly, how do you manage your RAs? How do you manage your grants? How do you manage finances? These are things we don't learn as a fresh PhD student, nor maybe as a young researcher, right? Maybe it's something you don't want to learn as a researcher. But maybe if you understand the systems in place, I was talking to Giovanni about this, no? It may be something we can shortcut it. We want you to focus on science and technology. Maybe I know the US professors here, there are strong systems in your universities that you don't have to worry about financial stuff of your projects. I've seen NC State, we went to Francis's project, they have an online system for their grant tracking system. How can we bring that here, right? So that our researchers are free to do research. This is my last slide. So in terms of the volunteerism theme of PAASE, and sort of a personal wish for this, how we can work together with the STRIDE program with the PAASE members now. How can PAASE be a platform for crowdsourcing, providing solutions to local problems? If I'm a researcher in Samar State, and maybe I have an idea. I'm from Pharma, by the way. I work for GSK. There's an idea where if you have a question, you have a reaction, you put it on the whiteboard, this to that question mark. Maybe people walk by, hey, maybe you've tried this reaction, right? Like a sounding board. Maybe PAASE can do that, right? We don't have to do joint publications or maybe a joint research institution yet. But can we do that, right? If I'm a peeling nut researcher, I might think maybe to solve the rancidity problem, there might be just some molecule that we have to fix, right, to prevent oxidation. I don't know. But it might be simple things. Let's try that discussion. Huh? Maybe it's part of a movement. I know I don't want to sound too sappy here, but can we start that? From a low-level engagement, our researchers abroad here, how can we talk about engaging the younger scientists and engineers who are there, who want to sort of give back? If I'm a Bicolano, I want to work with the Bicol projects here. Why not, right? So with that, I'll end with my last slide, here. The STRIDE program, funded by USAID. 3 more years, $6 million to the American taxpayers here. At least you'll be happy to know your money's going to this. Make you feel good, right? And we're partnering with government, academia, and industry to create more innovative businesses and products from the Philippines. We're implemented by RTI International. That's our website. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. It's nice to learn from your students.